What's the dumbest idea you had as a child? I once tried to build my own trampoline. Placed 4 chairs a good distance apart, spread a bed sheet across them, and put something heavy to hold down the sheet. Now, a smart person would test this, make sure it's going to hold my weight or actually work like a trampoline. I did not take any such precautions, and took a dive face first from the back of the couch. And that's how I got the scar on my forehead. I did get a real trampoline when I was older though, never even got hurt on it. I dug a hole in the backyard thinking I could build an underground house. My mum ended up falling into it when she went to hang some shirts on the laundry line. Luckily she didn't get hurt. I did this. Ended up like 4 feet deep. I couldn't get out of it. Dad was not happy when he got home. I was making a wolf den. Duh. The moon and sun loved me because they would always follow me around. This is true, my dear. You can have this one. What about me? What do I get? Suicidal thoughts. Hey, I already have one of those. I thought booby traps had something to do with boobies. So I went like a commando through the backyards in the neighborhood and stole bras off the clotheslines. Since I figured they already trap boobies at some level, they are the material needed to build my larger trap. My dad found whatever insane net I tried to build by connecting them all together stashed in the garage and was pretty confused, then pretty upset when I told him what I was working on. Since I had no record of where I got them from, he made me go door to door asking if any females in the house were missing bras, then go through my entire collection to pick out which one. No one was very happy based on my actions. That the world was stupid for thinking 6 to 8 hours sleep was necessary. For about 1 academic year, I stayed up till about 3 AM playing games, or watching films or even doing last minute homework, and woke up at 6 for school. I was falling asleep in the afternoon lessons every day, but I got back home and perked up again. Most of that year is a blur. I think it also coincided with when I stopped growing taller. I did this same thing. I had always had insomnia. I still average around 5 hours of sleep. So one year in high school I thought to myself, hey, if I'm going to be tired anyway I might as well get something out of it. So I stayed up until 5 playing League every night. Most of the year was also a blur for me, and now I'm a short little man. I formed a detective agency with my friends and would scour the local newspaper for cases to solve. Got really excited when I read that there were people down the street whose son just died suddenly, was just leaving the house to go interview the dead kid's parents when thankfully my mom found out and stopped us, and thanks to your mom, that kid's parents got away with murder. I had this period where I decided to be an inventor. One of my inventions was a universal tool which I named the Use It on Everything. It's funnier in my language. This instrument was actually 1/2 of tiny nail cutting scissors that I found somewhere on the ground, which I used to cut off those little metal bits that hold the eraser on top of a pencil, and then coil those bits around the Use It on Everything for decoration and bragging rights. So it was pretty stupid and dangerous, but in my mind I had invented the most useful tool known to mankind. I would use this thing for literally everything that needed poking, scrapping, carving or cutting. I would scratch words into rocks with it and call it art. I would pick my nails with it. I would use it as a fork to eat apple slices. Yep. But apparently my enthusiasm was contagious because the other kids were incredibly impressed and envious of my amazing invention. One kid tried to trade me their pencil case for it, which I refused, sneering in contempt at the idea that I would throw away my treasure for useful supplies. The Use It for Everything was far superior to your meager pens, I would say, as I dipped it in ink from a ruined pen and use it to write exactly 1 letter at a time before I had to dip it again, and the other kids looked on in awe. We didn't have computers or phones back then, okay? It was a more innocent time. I learned that the shape of proteins make up stuff in your body, such as your eye color. I wished I had different colored eyes. I learned that proteins get denatured, changed shape, when put in certain conditions, such as high temperature. Fast forward to me boiling a pot of water under my face in hopes of the steam changing my eye color. In 9th grade biology class in the late 80s I had an idea to cure AIDS. I made it my science fair project. I thought that if you can keep the patient in a sterile environment, like the boy in the bubble, and suppress white cell production, the virus would starve. I even looked up the name of the drug that could suppress the white cell production. Then once there was no trace of the virus, administer a white cell boosting drug and boom. AIDS free. Unfortunately, the effort I put into this post is about the same as the effort I put into the science fair project. So I failed. And the science teacher told me that the virus would probably mutate to thrive off of other types of cells. So thanks to your low effort, we are still struggling with AIDS. Thanks a bunch. Not necessarily a dumb idea, but as a kid, I was one of those who thought all the paranormal stuff was real. Alien abduction stories were all real, ghosts were real, all the holiday mascots were real, illusionists on TV did real magic, that sort of thing. I was a big fan of those movies like the Santa Claus, where the little kid would believe in something and all the adults would think he's crazy, then they would be proven wrong. I wanted really badly for that to happen to me. Anyway, the big thing with me is I put a lot of stock into my dreams. Basically, if I had a dream that I liked something, then that meant I had to like it outside of my dream. Like I remember watching a movie one day and thinking, okay, that was alright I guess. A few weeks later I had a dream about the movie, and for like the next year, I firmly believed that it was my favorite film, the soundtrack was my favorite soundtrack, and the actors in it were the best in all of Hollywood. I would do this with pretty much everything. When I was about 6 or 7 I was laying in my mother's bed at night, while she was elsewhere in the house when my moment of brilliance struck me. If you simply take a dog leash and wrap it around the blade of a ceiling fan, then it will spin you across the room like some sort of Disneyland ride. So without any further thought, I put my plan into motion. So once I had my contraption all hooked up, I made sure I had a tight grip on the leash and turned on the ceiling fan and jumped off the bed. Immediately as I jumped off the bed, the ceiling fan ripped from the ceiling straight onto my mother's bed. I have never seen my mother so angry ever before in my life. Before she was done beating my ass, she was already on the phone to my father telling him to come and pick me up. To this day we still laugh and joke about it as one of my finer moments, but holy crap, what was I thinking? Cutting the tip of my tongue. Honestly, gross. Ouch. OMG, I know. But the story behind it was, my parents sold me the idea that I can't say bad words, because if I did God would hear it, and he'll cut my tongue. One day I was home alone, decided to eat cereal and clumsy me didn't hold the box properly so the plastic slid, and cereal fell everywhere. Out of surprise I cussed, cazzo, which is fuck/shit in Italian, and soon as I said it I was mortified. I was shitting my pants, bawling, God please don't come and cut my tongue. Then the dumb idea came to mind, maybe if I cut it first God would spare me the visit. So I took a scissor, stood in front of the mirror, and cut a tiny portion of the tip of my tongue. Screamed and stuffed my mouth with toilet paper immediately afterwards. But the worst part of it all was when mom came home a few minutes after that and cooked my favorite chicken soup for dinner. I let out silent tears when time came to eat it. When she asked why I was crying, I said I just loved her chicken soup so much. The end. There are a few stories, but I'll share in my opinion the best one. When I was 3 to 4, I was watching Sesame Street, and somehow by asking my folks and some hard thinking determined that Big Bird couldn't fly because of his wings. This unlocked something as it meant that you didn't need wings to fly. My budding little scientist mind deduced the most logical answer then, magic beak. I looked about the house and found a vacuum nozzle that very much resembled a bird beak and concluded that this was the MacGuffin I sought. Now, surely I would have tested it out on a younger sibling or neighborhood kid, but no, I had discovered the secret to humanity's flight potential. There was no time to waste, and only glory before me. Now before you try to imagine what I did next, just know that it is probably worse than you are thinking. For you see, in front of our place was a stone stairwell of about 8 to 10 steps. I popped that nozzle into my mouth, went to the top, and leapt into the heavens. Well, for the first half of the jump I did. And mind you, this was not a jumping into a puddle jump, this was a dolphin going through a hoop jump. As gravity started to play its part, I stayed true to my course. Sure, I'd swoop like how I had seen birds swoop for food. My last memory is that I think I tried to flap my arms as the ground got very close. Next thing I knew I was in the air getting stitches and popsicles. The popsicles must have been really good, because that was the first story of 3 of me having stitches in my lip before the age of 6.